You know that feeling, right? It's one of the most frustrating things in the world. You've got this brilliant idea, a really well-intentioned, noble plan, and then, slam, the door just shuts in your face. It makes absolutely no sense. So today, we're going to dig into what it means when God says no to your very best idea.
And I mean, really, think about it for a second. Was it a project you poured your heart into, a goal that just felt so right, so good, and it just hit a brick wall? That feeling of confusion, maybe a little bit of discouragement? That's exactly what we're talking about today.
Well, if you've ever felt that way, you are in very good company. We're going to look at the story of King David, a guy the Bible calls a man after God's own heart, who had this magnificent, God-honoring plan get completely derailed. And trust me, his story holds some really powerful lessons for all of us. So let's dive in.
Okay, so first we've got to set the stage. David isn't in some sort of crisis here. He's actually at the absolute peak of his power. And that's what makes what he does next so incredible.
The story goes that after years of fighting, just constant political chaos, David finally had rest. I mean, the kingdom was secure, his enemies were toast, and he's living in this beautiful palace made of cedar. Now, for most of us, this would be the time to just kick back, enjoy the rewards. But not for David.
This right here, this contrast just says it all about David's mindset. His success didn't make him lazy or complacent. Instead, it filled him with what you might call a holy discontent. He's looking around at his own amazing permanent home, and then he looks over at the Ark of God, the very symbol of God's presence, and it's housed in a simple, temporary tent, and that just did not sit right with him.
You can almost feel the struggle in his heart, can't you? His peace, his prosperity. It didn't push God away, it actually pulled God right into the center of his thoughts. He's thinking, how can I be living in luxury while the symbol of God's presence with his people is just in a tent? And this is where his brilliant God-honoring idea comes from. He's going to build God a permanent, glorious temple.
And what do you do when you have a huge idea bubbling up inside you? You talk about it with people you trust, right? So David immediately goes to his friend, the prophet Nathan. And this wasn't just idle chit-chat. He was sharing his deepest spiritual desire, which just goes to show how important having that kind of community really is.
So, let's recap. David has a great idea. He has a pure motive, and he has the full support of his spiritual advisor. Everything seems perfectly lined up, but this is where the story takes a really sharp, really unexpected turn.
So Nathan hears this incredible plan, and right away he gives it his blessing. I mean, why wouldn't he? From a human perspective, this plan is a slam dunk. He says, go for it, do whatever you want. The Lord is with you. It's the ultimate green light. Yeah, but that very same night, everything changes. God speaks to Nathan and gives him a completely different message to take back to David. This is that moment of narrative whiplash, where all our human wisdom and even our best spiritual advice run smack into a divine plan that nobody saw coming. And here's the thing, God's message wasn't, David, that's a bad idea. Not at all. The idea to build a temple was fantastic. The message was about the who and the when. God basically says, David, you're not the one who's going to build this house for me. It was a clear, direct no to his personal plan.
Now, a no like that, it could have been absolutely crushing. I mean, imagine. But here's the thing about God. He doesn't just slam a door shut without opening another one, usually a much, much bigger one. Because what comes after this no is one of the most incredible promises in the entire Bible.
This is the pivot. It's just incredible. God takes David's offer and flips it completely on its head. He says, you're worried about building a house of wood and stone for me? David, that's a noble thought, but I am about to build a house for you.
And this wasn't just some casual promise. This was an unconditional covenant. Let's just break this down. First, God promises to build David a house, not a physical building, but an eternal dynasty. Second, he clarifies that David's own son, Solomon, he'll be the one to build the actual temple. Third, and this is huge, he promises to establish David's kingdom forever. And finally, number 4, he promises that even if David's descendants mess up, his love and his kindness will never ever be taken away from his family line. This promise was all about God's grace, no strings attached.
And this is where we see the really, really long game. We zoom out and we see that this ancient promise of an everlasting kingdom finds its ultimate fulfillment generations and generations later in Jesus, who, as you know, is called the Son of David all throughout the New Testament. So, David wanted to build a temporary temple, but God used his no to promise an eternal king and an eternal kingdom. Wow. So, okay, what's the big takeaway for us? What are we supposed to do when our own plans get redirected? What can we learn from how David handled this divine course correction?
David's response is it's incredible. He didn't whine, he didn't argue or get bitter, he just surrendered his own great idea. And in that obedience, he opened the door to a legacy far greater than anything he could have ever built on his own. He trusted that the master architect had a better blueprint.
This verse from the Psalms just captures the whole lesson perfectly, doesn't it? We can work our tails off, we can plan everything down to the last detail, and we can have the best intentions in the world. But if what we're building is outside of God's plan, it's all for nothing. The only work that truly lasts is the work that God himself builds. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? When a door closes on one of our good, even God-honoring ideas, it isn't always a rejection. It isn't a sign that we failed. Sometimes it's just an invitation from God to stop, to look up, and to trust that there's a bigger, more beautiful blueprint that we just can't see yet. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. That plan in your life that feels totally blocked right now, that prayer that seems to be unanswered. What if it's not a rejection at all? What if that no is actually God's way of clearing the ground for a far greater yes than you ever could have imagined?